and off the drugs. Time check, it is some 23 minutes past the hour of 8. You're still live here on the best breakfast show in all of the land. This is still 3FM Sunrise on 3FM 92.7, and this conversation that we have tabled this morning is one that is very, very pressing and dear to all of our hearts because it involves the heartbeat of the nation. We're talking about young Ghanaians hooked on opioids. Today we have a frank, in-depth conversation about how this phenomenon actually started, where we are today, what are the broader conversations you and I need to be having, and most importantly, what can you and I do to contribute to putting a stop to this very, very dangerous snowball effect that we're seeing? Well, to help me flesh out the themes of this conversation, let me introduce into this conversation and onto the 3FM Sunrise platform, Dr. Richard Salome. He's the General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association. He was here nice, bright and early, just as we like it. Let me also say a very, very good morning to Dr. Thomas Anaba. He's the MP Garu and also member of Parliament's Health Committee. Gentlemen, hello, good morning.
Good morning, Helen. How are you two?
I'm doing well. Good morning. Good to see you both. Honorable, how are we doing this morning?
We're managing. Ghanaians.
I always hear Ghanaians are the best managers.
Yes,
you ask any Ghanaian, how are you doing? So I'm managing. We're managing.
Yes.
Now, I'm very excited that you are here for us to have this discussion. I know that the conversation has not started today. We've been having these discussions about opioid use, or shall I say opioid abuse, by young Ghanaians and Ghanaians in general. Honorable, let me start off with you. How alarmed are you by the recent state of affairs when it comes to the opioid situation in Ghana?
Thank you very much for having me, and greetings to all Ghanaians listening and those in Garu also listening to me. I think I would say it's alarming from the point of view as a doctor. I just joined Parliament, so I have experience in the field, and I've managed so many young people with opioid abuse, both in my hospital for recovery and then seeing them in the market struggling to even stand up, recognize themselves, react to the environment, and seeing young boys' behavior change drastically. To me, is very, very alarming, the numbers of the youth that are engaging in this. So for my initial comment, I would say it's not easy from the medical point of view and social point of view. It's alarming.
Dr. Rich,
Yeah.
I can only imagine that you are also very alarmed by the state of affairs. You've monitored how this issue has traveled, and now it's almost reaching a crescendo where a lot, I mean, the statistics, I'm sure, don't even reflect the true picture, but a lot of our young Ghanaian men and women are hooked on opioids. What about you? How alarmed are you?
Well, good morning to your listeners. And as Ghana Medical Association, this is an issue that has been on our agenda for quite a bit. And we have released even some statements on the abuse and the use of various types of opioids. And we are even more alarmed because it is the productive ages of people who should be working, who should be schooling, that are abusing these medications. So you have people missing man hours at work. You have people who are at work, including the health sector, where people are using these medications, and that is leading to various...
Dr. Rich, but let me slight tack you a little bit. Did you say personnel in our health sector are also hooked on the opioids they're using?
Yes.
And abusing?
Yes, and the thing is that opioids are not supposed to be usually just available for people to use, especially the stronger ones. But as a health worker, there are multi-pronged issues that even make you at risk even more. One, the area you work is very, very highly stressful. And then two, you are the prescriber. And so you have a relatively easier access to these medications. Again, also, it is easy for you to sort of hide when you are doing it more than the usual population. And so we have also a serious crisis among health professionals as well. We reflect the society, and so it is that. And that is why it is very serious. Another reason why we consider this as a very serious matter, because indeed it is actually a national security matter, in the sense that people who abuse medications like this, when they move on from just being dependent into the addictive stages, even when they are dependent, they need this medication essentially, quote and unquote, to survive. And
to live.
To live, yes. It's become part of their norm. And so what this means is that once they are not getting it, and they begin, I'm sure when we begin discussing, you talk about the withdrawals and the things they go through, they would do anything to get these medications and use. And that includes selling of their things, that includes robbery, that includes petty thievery, and doing all sorts of things. And that is where it gets very dangerous and ruins the country. Yes.
Very, very eye-opening initial commentary there from Dr. Richard. Let me also say good morning and a very, very warm welcome to Dr. Albert Sedohia. He's a specialist psychiatrist at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. I have the men this morning. Doc, hello, good morning. How are we doing?
Good morning, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'll also pick your preliminary thoughts about how alarmed you are by the state of affairs when we talk about Ghanaian youth and opioid abuse.
So it's on the rise. We are in the crisis mode right now, and the accessibility has become more because of, we can call evil business people who want it at the doorstep of everybody. It's moved from just misuse of prescription to now getting to the hands of the youth, even without prescription. And they are using it for different reasons. The major reason is because of how the opioids, how it works naturally. It gives a sense of euphoria, a sense of, let's say, highness. So ideally, in other parts of the world, it mostly stems from prescription, where they start misuse and then abuse and all that. But in our parts of the world, Ghana, most of the youth who use it are into hard labor. They use it mostly because they want to work longer, harder. So, and they don't want to eat a lot. They don't want to, so that euphoria makes them work harder, longer. That's number one. Some of them use it to kind of, in quote, boost their sexual performance at that youthful stage. So it's not like a doctor who prescribed it to them or a doctor gave them a prescription for it. Peer influence, economic hardships push them into wanting to do hard labor for longer. So they want something that will boost that effort of theirs. That's why they get introduced to it. And as it will have it, it's opioid, and it has a very high addictive potential. What that means is when you start using it, after some time, you will need more to feel the same effect. That's when the tolerance begins to set in. And then they continue using. So to feel the same, you need to increase the dose. So they keep increasing the dose and keep increasing the dose. Now, at a point, they realize it's not good for them because it's taking too much of their time, their money, and what they want to use it for, they are no more effective in their job. Because when you use it, you see how they have slurry speech, they become slow.
That's right.
They become sedated. You can't work when you're in that state. So it means your productivity is going to be reduced. So at that point, most of them will know that it's bad for them. But why do they continue using it? Because of the withdrawal effect.
Now, Doc, let's lay the foundation, because I think some of us get confused with the different terminologies. In fact, we hear opioid, we hear tramadol, red. Lay that foundation for us. When we talk about opioids, what is an opioid? And also, is that the same as the tramadol? Is that the name? Give us some education, and then we can go from there, because I'm very keen on some of the things you've just said, talking about sexual function, dysfunction. A lot of the youth have used that as an excuse, but from what the doctors tell us, from what you all tell us, in the long run, the reasons for which they are using and abusing these drugs will come back and haunt them. Yes. So lay that foundation for us so we all know exactly what this opioid, red, tramadol, all of that is.
So it's always good to get clarified. So opioids it's a class of drugs that are derived from the opium poppy plants, or the drugs that mimic the effects of drugs derived from the opium poppy plants. So the general term is the opioids. That's the general. So in the medical parlance, oid means mimic. If you say humanoid, it mimics human characteristics. The naturally existing opioids are the opiates. That's morphine, codeine, and terpene. Those are the naturally existing ones in nature. That's what you derive directly from the opium poppy plant. So opioids is the umbrella term that houses all of these, the natural one, the semi-synthetic, and then the synthetic. Now, synthetic simply means it is produced in the lab for
So it's not
purpose.
from the plant itself directly?
So what you mentioned, tramadol and the rest, these are synthetic, strategically produced from the lab for a specific purpose. And it works in a similar way to the naturally occurring ones that are derived from the opium poppy. Now, all of them work to mimic what happens in our bodies. So in our bodies, we have endogenous opioids. That's the endorphins and the enkephalins. That's in your system. They regulate pain, mood, and hunger. Naturally existing. So if you have some small cuts on your skin, you will not need to take a painkiller. Your body has a way of taking care of that pain, your mood, your hunger. But the thing that we all need to know about these things is that the opioids have a higher affinity. It works stronger than the naturally existing ones. It is said they are much more powerful, about 100 to 1,000 times than the naturally existing ones. So when you take them, they're able to work longer than the naturally existing ones. So the endorphins are not as powerful as the tramadol you are mentioning.
Okay.
Now the red you are talking about is something that is not FDA approved. It is a high dose tramadol used by the youth for the purpose of how opioids work. Opioids will give you a sense of euphoria aside the analgesic effect. Analgesic is pain control. So opioids are used for moderate to severe pain control. When it comes to pain management, there's a ladder you follow. There's normal one, the mild pain, you use some particular medications, and the moderate, the severe use. Opioids are used for moderate to severe pain control.
Right.
Now, red, high dose tramadol, which is not FDA approved, and is used by the youth, not necessarily for pain, but they are using for the euphoric effect to help them work harder, longer. Because these are hard work laborers. They want to use it for that purpose. And I spoke about to boost their sexual activity.
Right.
That's in the short temporary term. But in the long term, it affects your hormones, testosterone. So it makes your testosterone level go down. So then your sexual function diminishes. And then other negative effects, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. So the reason why they start using it mostly is peer influence. So impulsivity. Impulsivity simply means you do something without thinking on it, without thinking about the consequences. So they start using them by impulsivity. But after some time, then it becomes compulsive use. Like my senior man said, you use it to survive, kind of. Because without it, you're going to have severe withdrawal effect. And to have an idea what they go through when it comes to withdrawal effects, just imagine you have nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, joint pain, headache, agitation, irritation, times 10.
These are the
At the same
withdrawal
time, withdrawal effects
symptoms
for people
that...
who are long-term.
Please go through that again for us.
Imagine that you have nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, joint pain, headache, agitation, irritability. All of these times 10 at the same time happening to you. So they try to avoid this by just going back to use again, even though they don't want to use. So they start using the drug, and after some time, the drug continues to use them.
Dr. Richard, you wanted to make an intervention, and after that, we'll speak quickly with a young Ghanaian man. For the purposes of this conversation, we'll call him Kofi, and he can shed some insight into what got him into using opioids.
Yes, I just wanted to add that whilst the bulk of the people use opioids because of some of the recreational and the hard work, and it starts that way, it is also true that sometimes it starts off just by the mere fact they got it for a medical purpose. And that is why it's important that it's not every pain that you jump and use an opioid for. And so in medicine, we have something we call the pain ladder.
Right.
What paracetamol can take care of, you don't need to jump straight to give morphine for. And so it's also important that in our practice, we select the patients carefully. And then also, these patients are given the necessary counseling when these medications are being given to them. Because some people, it is because they have chronic pain. Pain that has persisted, very low back pain that has been for a long time. So he's going to a pharmacy for a long time. So somebody says, okay, this thing they are taking, give me a stronger one. And then it means they give them an opioid. They like as he said, beyond dealing with the pain, the paracetamol will deal with the pain for you. Its extra is to deal with temperature rises, etc. But with opioids, beyond the pain, it gives you this nice euphoric feeling. And sometimes when they describe it to you, you sometimes not understand, but you can understand where and how they get addicted. They'll tell you it's like you're on top of the world, all your worries are gone. It's like you're at peace. And that happens to them. So then they want that feeling again, not to feel the pain and also have this feeling that goes along with it. And so we must manage these medications properly. I'm sure we'll get to that.
That's a very eye-opening perspective, that even for those who have very deep chronic pain, it's not the case that as soon as you present with those symptoms, your doctor will quickly go ahead and prescribe it. And even when you are prescribed such, there's some...
And that's why, for example, we say in medicine that don't treat the symptom. You treat the cause. So your chronic pain may be because you have a nerve compression by a slip disc, or because of a certain posture you've adopted, or certain things. So it's better to manage the cause. If not, you realize that after a while, paracetamol is not working. After a while, maybe the brufen is not working. And then people begin to move towards the, should I say, quote unquote, higher order or centrally acting pain medications. Yes.
And Honorable, you say this is it's very addictive.
Yeah.
So for somebody might have started taking it for legitimate reasons, for pain management, and then they find themselves hooked onto it, unable to stop.
Yeah, mostly those who go through medical reasons for taking it, they normally become addicted because they have used it to alleviate their pain. But if you have a pain clinic, pain specialist within, he would see how you would research to really understand what type of pain you have. Even the somatic pain and neuropathic pain, even chronic pain. There are chronic pains that you don't even need an opioid. You just need a steroid and some other drugs to combine, and you are okay. But because when you take the opioid, it gives you that euphoria, gives you that satisfaction, they tend to hook onto it. And now to go out is the problem, as he has just mentioned here. When they don't get it, the side effects overwhelms them. Then they run for it. So there's the need to always assess a patient first. What level of pain has he got from 0 to 10? If it is below 7 and cool, give him a paracetamol, give him an NSAID. If it goes above the 7, then that is where you combine with a low dose of the opioid for a short course. Normally, use of opioids in treating pain is for a short period. It's not for a long period. It's only in the elderly who have osteoarthritis and other things that sometimes you just want to add it to them in the evening for them to get a good sleep and the rest. But young people, you use it for a short course for acute pain. After the acute pain is not being managed, you now have to research to see what is really causing the pain. It could be a neuropathic problem. It could be that he's overworking, like we are saying. Then you have to know what drugs to take and how to work. You don't force yourself to overwork your body and tend to take a medicine that will give you addiction. Then what is the use of you working? At the end, you spend all the money again in trying to free yourself from the addiction. So to me, it is the way we assess people with pain and give it to them. But the main problem to me is that the availability is the problem.
Absolutely. Speaking of availability, let me also add to the conversation Dr. Richmond Edusa Poku, Executive Member, Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana. I'm sure he has a lot of your burning questions to answer. And of course, we'll also speak with Kofi. Dr. Richmond, hello, good morning.
Hi, Helen. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
By God's grace, we are doing good in Kumasi.
All right. I have a lot of questions for you this morning, but do hold tight for me. I want to speak with Kofi. He has come out as a user of opioids, and we want to get his perspective, how he started, why he uses, and what his plans are for the future to wean off, if that is his desire. I'm sure the doctors will also give some advice on best practices, what to do next. So, Dr. Richmond, hold on for me. Kofi, hello, good morning. Kofi Machi.
Hello.
Hello, Kofi. What's your name?
Bacha me tune pa. Me adumu madam.
Na Kofi we ede.
Edronu nya e particles na na nye wie dia forget dia aka nyina no. Benku bia se me brenkwa.
Into drone through system now, how do you feel?
All those one no, one say be opera, we track a crabby now on sound now, baby. No, a bear say, crooning you hobium, as I won't feel so cool, but a few more, sharpening in a better my back. Now, baby, I was a prep for so many years, no, I can't feel it happening so back.
Now, a drone motor were heifer.
Oh, normally there were drug traffickers now. I'm tied back. Normal get two boys.
Okay, into when yes, a more pharmacy na motor. What's more drug traffickers? I will get to her.
Yeah, pharmacy they are regular. Pharmacy on town now.
So uncle pharmacy bia wako bisa red ya the red na mao.
Dabida.
Okay. Motor will get to from drug traffickers. Omo ba get to no matter amamo. Ebi 8 CDs, ebi 12 CDs. So ya 2, maybe 16 CDs.
Yeah.
Now many doctors be how almost read no a free system na. Utumi ye dizzy. Yes say utumi fe ema headache, ema side effects bebre. To me feel side effects.
Media no cry because of the for the past 2 years ago, na me papa but the ready the we are me find about for man me find about for na say me man Fabio man na me ti no dia e ha me pa
utini ya oya
bomb anga zanka me the men can that no cry pa but one uber no na one did you have no matter ube yin ne pie bia ade no so wo no munsuo no na hayo mo wo no munsuo say na ne enti na hayo mo
kofi wo no munsuo no na edro no so high wo mo na e control
yeah because one if you need new you want di papa na ekoto you ma do new you na e be hinya ade dia e liquid sensu wo no na e boostino wo no na e boostino kopenta ma sa obody no mu a we the one that out now as order and that time shall feeling is about for my other cast of the top here so when did you no matter the more of it
when did you no matter what also be
and I go be because I didn't hear you no ma care okay drugstore now and then they over no me to so did so when did you no matter I don't know the they were boosting system no power in Canada, madam. You know, with me for more than 2, we with me for more than 1, but maybe a past years, me back because me won't say I'm born and me cousin. Me for the problem too is the idea they about a chain.
Let's say be to me for overdose, also for no 1 it be to me for ahe.
Me with me for 1 packing now. 1 pack,
me back if you to me for the whole pack. Nipa baako.
Wallahi madam.
No.
Oh madam, so unim say dia obi o ba be fa the whole park no. Ono obeboabo no obedi dope, obedi de betimi no. Na o se dem na so social media ne ho nchire no.
Na park na ahe na ewom.
10 pieces.
10 pieces na ewom. Ti ade a wo obi a wo nom 1, wakwa 2, obi tumi no ma nom 10.
Me too no put them into me no madam.
Baako pe.
Me kind maybe am no put half put na the two so no ka dia je me no. Ti wana me ka so da.
Then e ye o twetwe man. Onom 1.5 no then e see.
O me no 1.5 no dia emon dia. Me sorry na me dina wa. Me hu me nim na se e bia me hu no se wo soro. Dia me hu wo me nim I say obi a we ne su tin bi sa no. I said, "What sorry? You put up page of more." I said, "Only more job, more the way we need to touch you."
Now, coffee me to me bisa o get on our fahin o hefana mo drug traffickers no more. Get
those about nyamani na ni ma yimi ho efiri because emboa me.
Na me bisa say o get on our fahin get to potin e be na o ka ho asemi.
Oh, that be for now no first na me
okay.
But yeah, the human don't cause a whole joint, you know. See, I'm in quarter collection.
Okay, so first and then now we're shaman, but we're free. All right, Kofi.
Yeah.
Jala no so mame why na many doctors nankasa me dase pan say wa share wo story no mesamba abebisa o questions. Dr. Richmond, you're still with us, I hope.
Yes, I am.
And I hope you also heard the account of our gentleman, Kofi. He talked us through how he started, how we got into it, the dosage he takes. He says some even can take a full pack. When he takes one, even supplements it with a half, it's a whole different ball game. I did ask him where he purchases this tramadol. He says he called them drug traffickers who are in the ghettos. For a long time now, we've been told, or we hear that Ghanaian youth are going to pharmacies and are able to purchase these drugs over the counter. How true is this?
Not really true in terms of purchasing over the counter. There are some clients who have tried to purchase some of these medicines over the counter. But the type of medicines they try to purchase from our community pharmacies are not drugs like red, 250 milligram or tapentadol 120 milligram. They are usually things like pethidine, morphine, sometimes some tramadol, which they will try and do. Even in my practice, I realized on several occasions, people will actually come with fake prescriptions. And I remember one scenario where a client came and I should look at the prescription. I knew that private hospital. I didn't think that they may have prescribed this particular medicine. So I told the gentleman that, where did you pick this prescription from? He told me about it. So, okay, you wait. Let me call them to confirm. And that I told him about the price. So he said, okay, let me get into my car. I think he brought the motor and went out of the pharmacy. I was just watching him. He sat on his motor and voila, he was gone. I called the hospital, talked to the sister in charge and said, did you give a prescription to so and so to this person? And said, no, we even have this particular narcotic in our hospital, so we wouldn't send somebody outside. And the lady really panicked. And I said, well, somebody has duplicated your prescription, written a narcotic on it, and has bought it for filling. So there's a real duty for pharmacists in communities to make sure that they validate the kind of prescriptions that they get from narcotics. The Food and Drugs Authority has retrained all pharmacists. I don't know whether they've had interaction, for instance, with the doctors, but for now, the protocol is that for every narcotic that is written, clearly it should be on a different prescription. So the other drugs can be on their own prescription, but a narcotic alone must be on a different prescription. Sometimes we have problems where a doctor may write a narcotic and add other medicines to it, and you tell the client to go back and let the doctor separate the two kinds of prescription-only medicines. Sometimes when it's a public hospital, the client may go and the doctor may have left the consult room, and it brings a lot of difficulty. So I think that we can use this medium as well to talk to GMA.
Right.
That is a current standard.
All right. Well, GMA is here, so they can also weigh in on that particular issue. So, Dr. Richmond, from what I understand, pharmacies are now being more vigilant, at least from where you sit. You're asking for verifications and some modifications to the way that the ways in which doctors prescribe narcotics. You say it should be separately done, not lumped in with other medications. Would you say that then there's been a rise in fake prescriptions, people coming to you with these fake paperwork and all of that, just to try and get their hands on some of these brands?
Yeah, especially when tramadol became popular, was at its highest level maybe some 2-3 years ago. You could see a certain direction where fake prescriptions were coming in. In fact, I remember one particular situation quickly where a client was in a hospital. Actually, the person was a sickle cell patient. And when they get these crises, sometimes narcotics are used to manage this closing of the veins and the blood sticking in, etc. And this particular client actually was able to find a way of getting the prescription of this hospital, writing it out, calling an Uber driver to come and fill the prescription. First time, it was successful. Second time, it was watched. I said, no, this prescription has come here before, the same signature, everything. And then we didn't know that time the person was a driver. So the guy was interrogated. Where did you get this prescription from? Who gave it to you? Blah, blah, blah. He panicked and said, oh, the person is in the hospital. I said, which hospital? We identified the hospital. And then the driver actually called the client and said, I'm being questioned about the prescription that you gave to me. So we spoke to the client. And lo and behold, I mean, she couldn't really, fill in the gaps and was complaining that why are we questioning her, etc., etc. A day later, 2 doctors came from this hospital to the pharmacy and unfortunately started accusing us that we've been filling or giving drugs out. So in pharmacy, we have something called the dangerous drug book. We record, it's like a track and trace mechanism, but it's manual.
Right.
You record every narcotic you sell in the prescription, and it's given by the Pharmacy Council to us. And occasionally, FDA comes to inspect how do you dispense your pethidine, your morphine, other things. So one day came, we opened the book to them and said, this prescription, it came at this time. These are the retained copies of what we said. So for as far as we are concerned, these were valid prescriptions. We actually detected and realized that it was fake, and then we rather stop the dispense of such medicines. So then we asked them again, how did this patient get this prescription from this hospital? And that's where it got interesting. Eventually, we had to settle it professionally, and then they went away.
Dr. Richmond, hold on for me. Let me come back in studio and then we'll flesh out this conversation some more. Thank you for your preliminary thoughts and also that insight into what is going on in the pharmacies. And I'm sure everybody listening to us, other doctors, those in the pharmaceutical industry will take extra caution, a 2-factor authentication, if you like, maybe even 3-factor verification and all of that, so we can put an end to this canker. Let me come to Honorable Anaba. You were listening to the story of Kofi, who was sharing his story with us. He's into construction work. He says when he used to work with a gentleman who was also in the same field, and he watches the way the guy works. The guy says, oh, I've been supplementing with this drug. And he got involved. With the young Ghanaians, men and women that you have helped in this situation of coming out of drug abuse, is this story peculiar?
Yeah, this story is very peculiar. It runs through most of them, majority of them. Just a few get addicted to it through medical prescription. Just like the gentleman doctor who just spoke now, you would see that the young people get the drugs through the illegal means, through people who are doing criminal business to make money.
In fact, Kofi said, he called them, he said, we have drug traffickers in the ghettos.
Yes, that's why I call it criminal profit-making group of people. They just want to make money because the dosage that they read is even 250 milligrams. For medicine, 50 milligrams is the tablet. The 100 milligrams comes in the vial, they put it in IV fluid and inject it into you slowly over 1 hour, 2 hours. That is how we even take it in the hospital.
So this 250 milligrams is a high dosage?
Very high dosage. And some of them are even able to take a whole pack of it.
He says it has 10, so 2,500.
Their system is just used to it. They've become so addicted to it that. So my problem is the availability. How do people get it in the system? To me, it is not more the issue of pharmacy, Food and Drugs Board or authority. Now, it's a problem of a national security issue. How to get those traffickers and all their distributing centers and work over it and stop the distribution of this to our young people. That is the main issue. I think that we should go beyond now Food and Drugs Authority going around to the pharmacies to arrest people because now they have controlled their part. Now doctors have to write the prescription on a different form. In the hospital, they'll only give it to you if a doctor prescribed. That one is controlled. The only people that we can control are the staff working in the hospital, that we have to work on them to stop abusing it. But the general public that has made this thing to become very known are the young men and girls who are in the system, taking it through an illegal means. They get the drug through an illegal means. They get it through trafficking, through criminals, not knowing that it's doing damage to them. We know you have to work to make money, not to get tired. But you don't kill your body and you will not live to enjoy the money. So I would call on the national security rather to set up a good investigation team. Look at the pharmacist was trying to investigate, trying to hide and look at clients, how they buy drugs and then the rest, even sending people to places to go and purchase. I think the national security can do a good job by setting up people and try to nab all these people in the bud. For my knowledge, I think we have only one source of entry point for narcotics in the country. And it should be controlled. Any drug that comes outside this, it means that it is illegal. Some of these young boys, you have to lure them, persuade them, and get to trap all these people who are dealing in these illegal issues. Because they didn't get it from hospital. They don't get the very toxic one from the hospital. They get them from the streets.
And these are illegal drugs.
Illegal. I don't think the Food and Drugs Authority would authorize its importation. I don't think the custom officers at the ports would allow them to enter.
But they are here.
They are here. It means that they are coming through unapproved routes, or they are using illegal means to pass through the ports through corruption or whatever. This is just an allegation I'm making, but it can be. So we have to strengthen the security aspect in our ports and also the illegal entry points, and also do surveillance in the markets. Because in Tamale, they arrested one woman who was selling clothes, not knowing all what he was doing, was dealing in this red. At the end, they arrested him.
So under the guise of selling other things.
This was selling the red. A young man carrying a bag, walking around. They were Nigerians or so, carrying bags, walking around full of opioids. When they arrested him, full of red, 250 milligrams. Me, if I take it, I don't think I'll wake up till tomorrow. Because even when they inject me the 50 milligrams, I don't wake up. They did it to me once, and I never took it again. They did it to me once for a particular pain, and I never took it again because it was awful. The recovery was awful. But it is meant for people in really severe pain who cannot withstand the pain. Not because you are working and you are tired. If you are working and you are tired, that is a biological clock to tell you that your body is exhausted. Rest.
Don't go beyond it.
Don't go beyond it. But most of these young boys who are dealing in hard jobs, they want to work too much and make money. I know there's no decent job there, but those jobs must be done. But it is done moderately, at least to get something to eat, but not to kill yourself. So my call is on the national security to devise a means. And then we would work.
Honorable, I like that point. And you as doctors talk about treating not just the symptoms, but the root cause.
Yeah.
If we expand this conversation, is the root cause joblessness in the youth? Is the root cause some kind of despondency or desperation in the youth? Or is it really that our young ones are getting lured by, or is it peer pressure? What would the root cause really be if we were to go beyond just the symptom of, I want to work harder? Can we go deeper?
It's several. The root causes are several. It's not only because of lack of job. I've treated young people whose family people are rich. They don't even work, but they are on it. They are hooked on it. Some are working, and they are taking it because they want to stay longer hours working, which I think is not even good. The labor laws does not allow you to overwork. You know, we are supposed to work for some number of hours. Even those working at the port, if your bag weighs more than 23 kilos, they won't allow you to pass. So it means that anybody who has been employed to do any job must do the job according to prescription. Those going around picking metals, carrying blocks, doing construction work, there's a weight that you must lift. And if you lift it and you are tired, you think you cannot, you don't kill yourself by taking tramadol to kill yourself to allow somebody's business to flourish. At the end, you are going to perish. So the causes of taking it is several. Peer pressure is there. This gentleman you just spoke to told us that his friends lured him into it.
That's right.
Many people are same. Their friends lure them into it. So, me, I've taken this. We are going for this activity, play football.
Maybe this party.
Can you just take some little tramadol and then you feel high? We are going for a party. They put it in the drink without them knowing. Some of them tell us. Without them knowing. When they take it and they are fine, the following they say, this drink doesn't give me the sensation I had yesterday. I need it well. Then they say, okay, this is what we put inside. Then they are hooked to it. So the cause of getting hooked to it are several. It's not only because there is no work. Yes, there is no work. There are people who have work, but they are not onto it. It is rather those who can work to buy it who are onto it.
Right.
And when they become addicted and they can't work again, then they find themselves committing criminal acts and then the rest.
Dr. Richard, Dr. Richmond said something very interesting, and he roped you into the conversation, talking about verifying some of the prescriptions and so on and so forth. Did you want to add on to that conversation?
Yes, I think he makes some good points. I need to probably follow up and be sure about this bit about the new prescription part, because there are practical challenges related to that. These days we are using a lot more of the EMRs. So the hospitals prescribe not on paper anymore, typically being prescribed on the electronic system. It gets to the pharmacy, and it is when maybe the pharmacist does not have the medication in stock, then they will write a prescription stamped from the pharmacy and it goes out. So, but of course there may still be prescriptions, so we may have to look at it. Are we color coding, for example, the prescription part, so that everybody knows that when you are buying medication with this specific color coded prescription part, that to be done? We will liaise with the FDA, and of course we work closely with PSG on some of these ones. But tracking is important, because I mean, you travel out of this country and then you will be called as the doctor as to whether you wrote this prescription, even for what we take for granted, like antibiotics that people buy, which is not supposed to be so anyway. And so it's important that pharmacies, especially those in the community, but I think PSG also notes some of the, I've forgotten it. Dr. Richmond notes that where there are pharmacists, some of these problems are not as a big challenge. But sometimes it's the drug stores and this over-the-counter shops, what we call drugstore, and so where there are no pharmacists in these communities, and the supervision is not as good, and they are not supposed to even stock some of these medications. But of course, they are in the community, and people can easily get, and it's good for quote and unquote business for them.
Right.
So then they jump onto this trail and do some of these things. So it's important we track right from there into the community. In the facilities as well, there's this challenge that maybe now that EMRs are being used may reduce, but when you leave prescription pads at the OPDs especially, and sometimes you have people leaving their stamps around, you have people pick these pads, stamp them severally, and then use them for all these ones. I remember there was a time we had a similar thing in our facility, and we had to track it because he had actually forged the signature of the doctor, and the stamp, he had stamped a number of them and kept them. And so when he needs it, he goes to use them. But then one time, the pharmacist decided to then call and find out what was happening to this person, that they had to get these medications on a regular. And the doctor said, I haven't written any such prescription. He said, oh, I have your prescription, your stamp, and your signature. I said, how come? Then we needed to go back into the matter and realize that people were doing this. So it's also important that as facilities, we control where prescription pads lie. And then also we ensure that when you're writing prescriptions, they are properly tracked. And then we don't leave our stamps aside as well. These are some of the things people do. But let me just add on to what Honorable said. Whilst national security will have to come in, I believe the communities play a big role.
Okay.
Because whatever it is, these things, if you dissipate the market, then the demand goes away. So the market must be there, the demand must be there for people to want to provide this. And part of this demand is generated in the communities. I've recently seen a very beautiful thing happening in, I think, the Kumasi Zongos, where Honorable Muntaka went. The communities themselves decided that enough was enough, because they realized that quite a lot of their youth were being lost to some of these.
They were tired of this.
Yes, so they decided by themselves to go out there into the community. They would know where people are. To the extent that police had gone to these same communities and could not find where the people who were selling this were, but the people knew where the people were, went into people's home, brought out sacks of these medications, and then arrested the people and handed them over.
Citizens arrest.
Yes, and so I believe involving the community members, letting them know the need to weed ourselves off this. Letting them know the dangers of using tramadol. It destroys the communities. Letting them know the need to weed out this red, as we call it, and get this out would be a powerful way of getting them to, one, spoil that market and reduce the demand that is there. They would also provide important leads. And because of what they have done, I know there were some discussions at various fronts to see how we then support them to identify those who are on the medications and support them out of it. Because sometimes when people do it, as we have said, because they don't find a way out of it and they suffer the grave consequences of trying to get themselves out of it, the bad symptoms and signs. And so you realize that then if I can't get out of this and I try to get out and I'm having this problem, then let me just continue. But people don't even know they can get out if only they are willing, and then they can go through the rehab and the other bits of it, and the society supports them and does not stigmatize them when they actually come out that I have this problem and I want to solve it. Then those who get out become powerful advocates to let the others know that they can get out, and there's help for them as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Dr. Albert, I want to come to you the next sort of minute or so we can also talk about the psychological impact, and then we can now talk about what the next steps are when persons who have been hooked onto these drugs want to stop. I want to ask Kofi if he has that desire to get off Red. Kofi?
Hello, madam.
Red no opese ujai ana.
Oh, me the mejayo.
Wejai?
No adam you are crash or no fampo, but onuka wejai. Or assist your Okada driver. And can so experience and also the offer mutra intro.
Obenwo.
That's why.
Okay, your friend is saying, and he's all bonny, upa, bonny din, but your friend. Alidu. Okay, mameni Alidu nkasa.
Ali.
Alidu.
Madam.
Morning, that's saying.
I'm doing, madam.
Yes, Okada.
I'm your Okada rider.
Your Okada rider. Also, for red nibi.
Red in the I know my boys, you know.
I am normal.
I know my boys, maybe, mammy.
O start your chair.
Me start here, the time I buy a friend saying 50 pesos, that I'm near white nearby. Time I buy a white. Near 50 pesos, to me, Tommy, and one CD now, the other.
And after the I done red. I buy a white. After the red.
After the red. In the more I be now 120 in your now. But they make a Ghana phone say most of the time some more mutua, I'm sure mutu phone in me.
See, I'm sure Okada riders in your farm. They farm more far red.
Mammy, far red now. I'm from a bow in a different feeling into top speed in a different. Sana nene so no master rider or kwam ura no ura baby time mistake kwa kwam no anya se o mani da o.
Alu na way they serious o. Because serious.
Mame, they make no serious na make catch no. Serious. Amo fa drivers ni na fa.
Into ko car. Unim se driver na rider no wafa white to say wafa red or no co speed ni nya.
Unim mame. Omo sorry a obon say na ade ba ko so a Ghana police people na mistake ni say. Obetuma hu say obitina or situation o mo o ye no dis no. Wa baget to o so on chin ko fo no. On chi sa nipa na ogina na o ye no dis no bisa ni say den na wanu mo. No the problem in na ko to so. I mean we ono ne kapa ni kete ne kapa ya kete.
O say heb ne de eni sa 2 minutes say red no.
Ono en kan kra heb no. Amo eno no mo de top up to say nipa wanum bibie wi na I say open husie na o de I say on na I say husie na ma wa fine. Enya bibia ko so okrum no enya nkofo ni no mo de.
Red. Alidu
120 putin.
And see what red no far feel saying.
Red no before I'm a family. I had to say get to moon say obi to me to drink no anum be obi to me into no. Kana they are me experiences are there no. Okita drink na me so o ma me yare and sipi kakra me so fine. Manum why. On say na me chance say boys okita drink na tale drink dem ma me num kakra. Into no, one day no day drink night. Mitchell said, we be more. Although I didn't be more. Sometimes, and yes, be a down for never influence. So sometimes also, I come and know I do now, also against and I say we need to wash it. Now they are the problem, no ban. And I be my own, then I.
Now, Ali do ready. Also, peso jai and as a one peso jai.
Ready, dear, me person me jai. My started take steps. I mean, the bed jai.
Steps Ben Sana will take it.
Me, my home, him send their meeting first. Him send their meeting first. Me dress, me whole nice. Like, no, me comfort zone, but see, I know. I didn't know to me frame is seminum. And a baby, I'm a cockot now, no. It can on me no man, I do baby. I say, oh, mamma, around me, a Juma, may I was said, no, me baby, papa, Binadia, no mamma, no behind you be. Colleague, now, me no more start here, no. We bring pesa. You know, I'm a no difference about me. Say, I'm a cop team, or more from. Oh,
Matthias,
into me, for no, I different. And a dream be an idea be a mammy and Casami improvement of my life Monaco. So anytime be a why fees are I'm open, I will the open. And I see and so funny I felt to say a flu muna a yell no this now or so won't baby unya unjay jumana oh yano.
Now cousin
starting it yeah.
Me too.
Starting I started say a boy in sana. Open the hot be a hot so feel it oh no I want in now.
So say now can I what done gangster?
Yeah, what done gangster? Oh, like me say moto no tena so a nipa na otu echi no fi no bi mo. See anu from na open and here oh traffic yet say delay kakra na obeda. You know anytime bia nti na ho say boys ni bebre on mo through traffic light po on person obegina no ko.
To me jina mpo.
Ahwe yesu afa bebre sana we an say ban na me mpengu. You know, ready the problem with about uncle for person mujai.
Na ali duka. Okay, sembi o se o hwese ne na o te first na ansa na o start red no. We hu difference ewo ho. Physical difference be na we hu and also mental psychology wa dream difference be na abim.
Physical difference am won say me ankasa me body. Me color na sesan. Utumi wa na I say rashes be good. Before I start here poa, enum 120, dem ma me ja 120. Madam for be on mo sama na se ha se no. Ne be ma no soro ho baby no. Ho nyina start say ye black. Rashes e kikan into you know say I just an insertion show mo sa.
No titi sa.
No titi sa na fe ye kro on mo ye black you know no den suffer for nem titi no wa. Nti me hwe we dey me say we dey to send the wako bonka wa num cocaine junkie. Nti red no buy and also ahonde red no so ba mu a eno ahonde bo so ahonde for boys or mu won ahonde wo mu especially ya fan say bibi ti aboso kan si aboso kan red nko a
o si aboso kan red nko a why na ton aboso kan why na ton red no
aboso kan de onhu obi o ton red omonum obi bi na omoba o onum no ofi a ade na da oyem na egbo ni nti wo fa ofi a ana bibi a obaka koto bia no obeduru ona start yi ejuma na ebe start yi no engine si on mo a mu nipa 3-4 po mutumi peja be trailer engine edisi bibi
ye alidu
mame
na emema na fa se omofa red na ade enchant mame hwese na emeka no omofa red na ema omo perform pa omene aha otimase yampa na
true over perform pa ba la show do be si bench won't mean perform bio
la show do be si bench address den
no chese o cut no po e be duru be no emba o turu po se o cut be so de se kokoye bibi sexual weakness beba o
say sexual weakness bebem
yeah cause sexual weakness so we be fast start you know start fresh now I say no na old vocal choir.
Ali, I didn't change. Ali, do you pepper coin over to my young can plain, sir. But Matthew was say, a doctor for how almost say drone in the short term. First, so far, a be a bit more wow, but asa, once work on the sexual weakness. But Ali, the line so mamma, why na many Dr. Albert in Casa, Yebeka, winning of one sem, how I want a coffee mube jai red no, no me tips are doctors, but my mamonko baby. Dr. Albert, I'm hearing a lot of things this morning, things that I didn't even know. Talk to us about the psychology behind this. He says that was Alidu. He says when you take it, you feel like a gangster. You know, you are the top dog in the ghetto. It brings about some aggression. He says if you are a rider, and a lot of them, he says, are hooked on it. You see them riding. It's not for anything. They're on drugs. He said when the wind just passes over you, you have that invincible feeling. Is this true?
Okay, so before I go to that, let me touch on some of the few things that Honorable did and Dr. Also. So when Dr. Richmond was talking about the pharmacist level, if in pharmacy shops where there are well-trained pharmacists, it is easy to control. Dr. Anaba made it clear. When a prescription can, you want to investigate and be sure who wrote it and where it's coming from and everything, and they're able to suspect quickly. They have the dangerous drug book and all that. But most of the pharmacy shops don't have pharmacists. They have MCAs, medicine counter assistant, who may not be so savvy in these kind of things. And of course, when you go outside of these, there are a lot of chemical shops that don't have even pharmacists, or some of them are not even MCAs who are trained. I have a lot of clients who are using some opioid, petidine specifically, among a lot of people, and they get it from pharmacy shops without prescription. So they know somebody's on it, they know the person, they just go and get how many vials, 10, 20, 30 vials, without prescription. It's business as usual for them, just like Dr. Richard said. It's just business, it's good business for them. The person is hooked onto it, and when you come, they get it for you. When you go to Okanshi drugstore, I have a lot of clients who just walk. So when you ask for petidine, they'll tell you there's none here without prescription. But as you continue walking, somebody will approach you. How many do you want? Follow me. So there's a whole cartel as evil businessmen behind it. They'll pretend they don't have it, but as you walk along, somebody will come to you and then begin to sell to you. And then you talk about what causing people. Of course, from the two people who are talking on the Alidu and our friend Kofi, peer pressure is big. But one thing that we mostly lose sight of is a lot of people are using these substances because of underlying, unrecognized, untreated mental illnesses. Depression, anxiety, PTSD, ADHD, a lot of mental illnesses underline why they use it. Because it is unrecognized, untreated, undiagnosed, when they take these drugs, the way they feel, they like it. Because maybe their mood was lower and has been lower for a long time because they are going through maybe some financial stresses, work stress, or whatever it is they are going through, some form of stress. When they take these substances, the way they feel, they like it. So they just want to keep on feeling the same way all the time. That is what makes them continue using it, underlining untreated, undiagnosed mental illness. Also, it's a two-way affair. Using it can also precipitate and perpetuate mental illnesses. So when you're on any of the substances of abuse, not just the opioid, you have cannabis, alcohol, all of them, when you continue to use them, it can also precipitate and perpetuate mental illnesses. So it can precipitate it, and it can be the reason why the person may be using. So that's self-medication unawares because of how they were feeling before that. Now, most people wouldn't be willing to come out to talk about it because of the strong stigma.
That's right.
In the society. They just write you off. You are a drug addict. You are so and so. That's why a lot of people don't want to talk about it. And that's why a lot of people don't even come for help. You see? So there are lots of people who are there who are not coming out. Now, Dr. Richard also made something clear. Manual workers. You notice he's naming them for you. Construction workers, Okada riders, long distance drivers. These are manual laborers.
In fact, this is my first time hearing that.
Galamsey sites.
Riders.
Heavy.
Okay.
Galamsey site. All manual workers, Galamsey site, and some criminals, armed robbers, and they all use this. And they don't only just use the red, they mix it with energy drinks that has that high in caffeine. And some also use codeine-based cough syrups. So people mostly don't just use the red or the tramadol, the high-dose tramadol. Why? Because, you see, it's a way of chasing the high. When you use it for the first time, how you feel, you may not likely feel like that ever again, but you always want to feel like that. So after using the ref for some time, you may want to add something else, caffeine, a stimulant. You want to add something else, maybe cannabis, alcohol, a mixture of it.
In fact, Alidu says the cannabis is like a top-up.
It's a base.
Is that one, he says the effects, you just add it to it. But
yes.
With the caffeine, if you mix this with the caffeine, I mean, can your heart handle that kind of pressure?
When it comes to substance of abuse, tolerance is where somebody said a lot of peers can use a whole pack. And you're like, how? It's not too surprising. Because like I said from the beginning, when you start using it, after some time, your body becomes used to it. So you need more to achieve a similar effect. That's when tolerance begins to set it to the point where you can use a whole pack or two. We have people who are using the dose. We tell you, like, how are you able to survive it? Because of tolerance. Now, everybody should be aware of the fact that opioids in general can cause sudden death, respiratory depression. So you can die from because of the tolerance. You keep on dosing and increasing the dose to the point where you just die. At the work site, at home, or wherever you may be hiding.
So you could be on construction site lifting blocks, your heart will stop.
Because he said something which I also want to focus on. He said, because it's oral, you took it, it's being absorbed into your bloodstream. That is why he's describing, he's giving you a practical experience. That's someone who knows what he's talking about. We are just helping with the medical understanding of it. So he said, because as you drink more water, it's being absorbed into your bloodstream. That's when it begins to peak in your blood, begins to work. And then after some time, he says, he feels weak.
Yes.
Sedation sets in. So the euphoric phase is what they like, but they don't like the sedation part. The sedation part is where they feel slow, they become slurry, they are drowsy, they can't do what they set out to do. And the second person, Alidu also made it very clear that it will start helping you, but after some time, it will leave you on the bench. That's exactly what we are saying, that testosterone level will go down after chronic use. The reason why they seem to perform a little better when they use it in the interim is because of the euphoric effect, the dopamine effect. It increases dopamine. That's what gives the euphoric effect and all that. That is why they seem to have all that. But people need to also know that most people don't just use the red. It's a cocktail that a lot of people use. Energy drink with it, codeine-based syrup, alcohol, cannabis. Some even go as high as adding others like cocaine and others. It's a cocktail most of them use because they're just trying to have high from a lot of substances together in one person because tolerance has set in, but it should be made aware that you can die because it can depress your respiratory center, something that other ones may not be able to do. Like cannabis may not do that, but opioids can easily do that. We call it overdose. You just die from it. So, and then he said sometimes he feels like spirit is calling him to use the drug. A lot of people say that. That is compulsion.
Yes.
So I said there's impulsive phase where you use it because you didn't think about what it's going to cost to you, what is going to happen to you when you use it, the negative effect. You're not thinking it through. Just peer pressure, in the moment, party or something, you just use it. That's impulsive. But when tolerance begins to set in, you need to use it to somehow survive. That's compulsion. Compulsion is fueled by withdrawal. Because the withdrawal effect, like I told you, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, headache, agitation, all that times 10, if you don't take it, these feelings is unbearable. That is why they need medical attention. Of course, I know we are going to come back, but you ask about the impact, the psychological impact.
That's right.
First is what we've been talking about so far, addiction and dependence because of tolerance. It's highly addictive, and you should know that. You cannot just stop on your own easily. It's not easy to stop opioid. And from the clinical point of view, opioids are very difficult to treat, even in rehab. So we always advise residential rehabilitation at least 6 months. They don't do well with the outpatient rehab because it's very addictive. You are likely going to fall back.
Especially if you are in the community where there's a lot of it available, your colleagues are still using.
Availability, accessibility, affordability.
And then peer influence.
Fueled by peer influence. So it's available, you can afford it, and it's accessible. And then peers will say, oh, try. That's it. Like there's fuel and there's, you light a match. Boom. That's so affordability, availability, and accessibility fueled by peer pressure. And then it worsens all. So opioids are dangerous. The interim, the temporary benefit they seem to get are never long lasting. The euphoric effect, which makes you want to work longer, it's never long-lasting. The sexual boosting, it's never long-lasting. And it can kill you because it has tendency to depress the respiratory center. So addiction and dependence is one of the psychological effects. And I also spoke about the fact that it can precipitate mental illnesses, long-term use. And of course, addiction itself is a mental disorder. It's a chronic brain disorder. It's not just moral failure. When they become addicted to it, it's not because they can't control themselves. There are changes, structural changes in the brain. That is the reason why. And for every substance of abuse, now we're talking mainly about the youth.
That's right.
The frontal lobe, prefrontal cortex, which controls your judgment, your decision making, your impulse control, matures after 24 years. So when you expose drugs to before that time, the changes there are mostly long-lasting. I just don't want to use the word permanent because there is some hope because of neuroplasticity and all that, but it's very long-lasting. If you expose yourself, your brain to it before the maturity, imagine that you don't know, you don't have good impulse control, good decision making, all these, because after 20, it only matures, the brain matures from back to the front.
Doc, you have put the fear of God in me.
We need
morning.
you to have that so that a lot of people get
this
it clear.
This is very, very, very
because
serious.
It's a dangerous drug.
Let me speak with Dr. Richmond. I hope he's still with us and get some insights into what the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana is looking to do as a body as far as helping in the fight against opioid abuse. He's already shared some interventions such as the double checking of prescriptions. But Dr. Richmond, what else is PSG looking to do to fight this very, very terrible canker? Today I've been exposed to some new knowledge and information that lets me know that this is not something that we can toy with, not even for another day.
Yeah, exactly so. Since this particular phenomenon began years ago, and even in the recent past, the Society of Ghana has been impressing upon several stakeholders through our press releases, etc., and that there's a need even for government to have interaction with the international partners like India, where some of these drugs are produced, so that at the point of shipping, they make sure that these illicit drugs are kept in a and you realize that recently India closed down several illicit production of these medicines. These are some of the things that our government has been able to do. FDA is stricter, making sure that with the Customs Division of the GRA, they are monitoring better all the containers that were going to Niger, and definitely some of them will drop in here. NACOP is now much more aware of these things. But as Doc rightly said, it boils down to the community itself. A lot of education needs to be done. So pharmacists are gearing up already. There are several seminars we've had, community engagements we've had. Some of our members have engaged churches and mosques. Even this afternoon at 2 p.m., we are having a CBD on substance abuse where almost probably 5,000 pharmacists will be on online Zoom meetings. We're having discussion on strategies that we may have to take. The FDA is involved, the Pharmacy Council is involved, plus the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana. We want to run through all the strategies that we can use to help with substance abuse, not only opioids, but even with alcohol and other forms of substance abuse that we find in our communities. Because our members are embedded in communities, almost every 400 meters you may find a pharmacy. So as frontline health care professionals, we can really intervene. I mean, I'm sure every pharmacist who is in practice knows that certain types of cough mixtures are used as top-ups for those who abuse these opioids. So if you watch carefully, in fact, one particular brand is so common that anybody asking for that brand of cough mixture, if you're a pharmacist and a good one at that, you start interacting with the person and advising the person. And almost 80% of the time, those particular types of cough mixtures are just a top-up for these young men who abuse these opioids. So it is a good interaction that we can have with the community, the good interaction that we can have with our clients, to be able to counsel them and to make things right. We think that in the spate of all these opioid crisis, there has to also be some level of interaction, interprofessional interaction. I mean, for instance, we have counseling psychologists who clinical experience they may have, or even students who may be doing practicum, etc. Is there a way, for instance, that these counselors, for instance, can link up with pharmacies when we identify high-risk clients? We can have a certain network where they may come into the pharmacy, because sometimes most of them may be in hospitals. The client may not even want to go to the hospital space. If the client lives in the community and the counselor can arrange such that the counselor will come into the pharmacy and talk to the person and then carry it from there, that would be great enough. We have psychiatrists over there. As a pharmacist, I'm in the community. I realize that, look, this guy is an addict and we need help. How do we erase those silos between the community pharmacists and the psychiatrists, between the community pharmacists and some recovery homes, between the community pharmacists and some social workers that can come in and help? I think we must have a certain grand plan where community pharmacy are usually probably, as I said, the front line, and we can network. But for instance, now, if somebody is an addict, and I remember a clear case where there was a alcoholic addict that I was handling. Now, I will need a counselor. I will need a rehab area. I will need a psychiatrist. How do we link up to do these things? So these are practical things that we can do on the ground. Again, with regard to the prescription, for instance, can we do a digital platform where it is track and trace? So right from an import of morphine, or right from an import of tramadol, right from import of other things, it goes to the wholesaler, it is monitored digitally, a retailer or a community pharmacy goes to buy that. It is known, and it must be accountable. So like Doc was saying, a chemical seller now cannot go to a wholesaler and buy, because that wholesaler has to be accountable to the Pharmacy Council or accountable to the FDA. And in fact, naturally, FDA is even accountable to the International Narcotics Board and in Geneva. They are the ones who guarantee that this is how much narcotics you can have in the country. So all these things must be done. And I think that that's what PSGH is calling for collaboration among professionals and other agencies. And I think we've done these calls over and over. And so far, things are improving.
Certainly. Dr. Richmond Edusapoku is the executive member, Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana. We're very grateful that you lended us your time this morning.
Thank you.
All right, I'll let him go, and I'll check and see if Kofi and Alidu are still on the line. We'll finalize with them, and then we'll come back in studio. Kofi, what does you Okay, Alidu. Ose red no dear, ubejai na onim kwa obefa so a ubejai. Obeya ne saying because a doctor for her almost any giant dear no cranny. Enye easy. I was a hospital no more shesenia. A befa ho a ubetumi jai. Obeya ne den.
No credit. Yamakan mum there no credit. And a doctor ni no so kasa secondary se na o katin wakasempa se baby a mu konya wo ne tona mu tone nyama o komo kolasia o pese unya o bi ka se o so ni bi ba obi gina o hwe no aka che o se den na open no the amount na pese min ka we susu nto na munya no so awe omo ton bebre na enye Ghana fo
omo free fa
omo foreigners I mean to me, Cecia, no mean to me, on cancer, crew with Sufo, and our crew with Sufon, and also send the iron there, your own contact into a back doors as him.
Matthias,
yeah. Omo Moton baby nine and Ghana for only foreigners. And Oma realize say, Omo push sika into a hasi na. Omo de be mom, omo say Ghana for ni bi on ma sika na yo mo de nti na omo so maji na omo de amom and I done simple business, simple and the fastest way to make money, because every some 2 minutes 5 minutes be will make it 10 cities. Adia besan no anya more than obi or no bank cramp on one share no need as can be into no baby I ever show on so one check here adia no say much you be there also on chere baby or coffee because allow so on ton pharmacy bia ni send your papa no kan no pharmacy bia ni o get to you to benya vim so baka go jina so operate that top which mean ya bisa anto
Ali, mama bisa my final question. When you who say start red me say when you who what regret ya na
ebe ma o mami na o papa po hu a why different anytime you hide say o bebe o mo ansa into login anytime bia enyumre o ba po aye hu wait ma ba po one no wa bre na o de da undan different hu fisa ajisa dia chance na o de o ye
Ali do also open help na we join ye open help ana open help all right. And yeah, Ali do your details. Yebekasa.
Okay, Mati.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That was very grateful for that candid, frank, undiluted. I mean, he says he has regrets because he said he used to dress well. He used to look good. Now he feels shy, even with the company that he's keeping. That's not how he used to be. Honorable, do you get the sense that those who have now gone too far, if they could turn back the hands of time, they would?
No, definitely. They would like to go back to where they were before they took it, because a lot of the people that we are managing at the facility I was working, they regret. They have a lot of regrets. And they really work hard to win themselves off of this addiction. And what I can say is that from listening to him, what I said at the early stages is that the people who are actually dealing this is not the licensed, legalized means sellers, not the pharmacists, not the shops, but now even market women, and led by what you have said, foreigners. Internally, they were Nigerians. Let me mention it clearly. Yes, and this is where I'll call on.
Alidu was a little bit more diplomatic. He says it's a backdoor something.
You see, they sell things, phone cases, phone chargers, and all those things.
And they sell it
alongside. That's how they got them internally. And I think that is the same thing replicating here. They go to Makola and they'll mix up with the people. And the problem is that we should have people who have that sense of identifying criminals. Now that we are giving out this information, the young men are giving out this information, it means that they want us to get rid of them. So let's use the information, set up people, and get rid of these people. How should Niger be importing a drug that we know is illegal? Have we contacted the Nigerian government to know whether those containers were really legally approved for it to enter their country? And I remember the one that they arrested at the ports here.
Right.
No one in this world would import tramadol of 250 milligrams per tablet. It is not allowed for human consumption. They are neither going to give it to animals, nor even elephants. What are they going to use it for? It means it's a cartel dealing in it. So I think that the West African community must come together, security agencies come together to look at it. Whilst we replicate what Mutaka did, getting the community leaders to come up to form groups to propagate the information and make sure they chase away those who are conniving with these criminals who want to make money to induce our youth into these toxic drugs. That's what I think we should be doing. Because look, it's very frightening that in a market, common market, you can get to buy the most illegal opioid, overdose opioid in it. Tramadol, 250 milligrams. It's too bad. It's too bad. We need to sensitize the people. We need to form community watchdogs against tramadol. And we need to also get our opinion leaders in churches, in the mosque, everywhere, even our chiefs. Let's educate them. The young man, you see somebody sitting and he's absent-minded, Track him. You get to know where he's getting it. His parents should reprimand him. The community should reprimand him and see where he's buying it and deal with that person. In that way, we'll save our youth. Or else, look, some years to come, like he's saying, their front lobes will not be working well. We'll have so many mad people, excuse my language, walking in on the streets. And you and I will not be safe. So we have to join hands, community leaders, politicians, security agencies. Let's take a crusade up and nip this thing in the bud to reduce it. We can't stop bringing opioid into the country to treat sick people. But that one must be properly controlled like they have promised that it's being controlled. And I know it's being controlled. Because if you go to any pharmacy to buy an opioid, they'll really record it down. If they have to invent a new prescription for opioid, that it shouldn't even be electronic. Let's have a special sheet for it. And all doctors must have a number attached to their stamp. When you come and your phone number attached to it, when you stamp and you go to any pharmacy to buy an opioid, then the pharmacy can start booking your number down to query it to see how frequent you send people to buy it and who you are asking to come and buy. From there, they can track you. I think doctors actually, majority of them, I don't think they abuse this. It's the patients who are very smart, those taking it. Like they said, they'll steal the prescription and be signing for you. Or they take one that and stamp it and go and do their own signature for you. And you'll be incurring problems. Meanwhile, you're not the one who is doing it. So tracking of the movement of opioid, right from importation, manufacturing, distribution, selling, and consumption, it must have full records and must be controlled. And no one can prescribe tramadol or even paracetamol mixed with tramadol. There are now tablets, paracetamol with tramadol mixed, that they sell, paracetamol with diclofenac. Those ones are accepted. Even those ones that are mixed with paracetamol and the rest, we sell them mainly for the elderly people, for osteoarthritis and the rest. It should be well controlled. And in that way, we would save our youth from this cancer.
We say prevention is better than cure because from what I'm also gleaning this morning, the withdrawal and the weaning off and the rehab is also not easy. It's not straightforward like maybe Alidu and Kofi say, oh, I know myself, I'll just stop. How do we go about weaning the young people off the opioids?
Let me just maybe on a lighter note say that one of the key things my friends and I we talk about is that no matter how high you get on these drugs, you can never be the most high. But it's a fact that what it just says, even though we say jokingly that no matter how high you get, you can never be the most high, it just tells you that once you start, you can never get there. And so it is a dangerous path to take. Now, to do this, there are multiple ways, but it requires multi-sectorial and then collaborative effort. And one of the key partners in this is you, actually, the media. And so as GMA, what we appeal is that this should not become a one-off discussion that we are having. All media houses, for example, should have this at least once in the month. We are talking about this front center, so that at every time people are knowing and learning about this. I have had many messages. I shared the link and people are sending messages. Oh, wow, I never knew this and this and this and that. And somebody's even suspecting a certain party. They went, this must have happened because of this and that. And so they would be careful next time doing A, B, and C. And so the public education is very, very important. So there must be sustained media effort to center this discussion. Beyond that is the community education that we've talked about and roping in key leaders. They know where the thing is. You can't beat that. And so we must rope in the community leaders, the chiefs and co, but the youth, those who use it, they will tell you. They will tell you and give you necessary information and intelligence that is required. Again, for us as associations, we will do the advocacy and push. But we also need law enforcement to match that energy, in the sense that they should be going out there. They know their methods better, but they can go out there as mystery shoppers looking for the same medications and they will easily find people. Beyond that too is that we must support those who want help, like Alidu and Co.
Right.
Because cost of rehab is expensive. The initial phase is the detoxification. Albert will give you more detail into that. But beyond that is the rehab, which is at about a minimum 6 months going. And this is not paid for, so you have to pay. And so if I come 1 month, 2 months, I cannot afford anymore. Especially remember, during that period, you are not working. So your source of income is gone. And then you now have to pay a lot of money for this. And so people who need this have to be helped to be able to go through the rehab. They then become advocates and champions. The danger in some of these is also the fact that maybe Albert talks about stress and all these bits, but belying that, if I want to go deeper, is the fact that we are building a youth and society who have less and less resilience. You see, you can only build resilience when you face the challenge or difficulty. These days, we are raising our kids on mobile phones. They don't have human-to-human interactions. When we were kids, you were going to play in the park. Albert brought the kids 5. He catches the ball, and he wants to go if we don't give him our best player. Those are actually important milestones in the training of our children who grow up into the youth and adults who then go into this. Why do I say so? Because I have to learn negotiation skills with Albert when I have to give him my best player so that we can have that. You have these papa and mama games where somebody will take your girl from you, you cry, you go back, maybe you see somebody with your friend, you are broken down and all, and you build resilience out of that. You learn about disappointments. You learn about how to overcome that disappointment. Now we are raising our kids on the phone. They're in the houses, they don't interact with people, they go to school, they finish, they are in extra classes, they are getting home, parents are not there. Parenting will also play a very key role when we are talking about the long term. And so the person doesn't build any resilience. The least stress, he's looking for something that can give him some high and some euphoria that lets him forget his problems. He fails an exam and he feels like, look guys, Charlie, let's go to the party and Charlie, let me get this off my head. And so at the party, then he gets used to these drugs and all that. So it's important that we also begin to look at the longer term issues of, especially parenting, if I want to emphasize that, and building resilience in the people that we raise. Because then this funds out into addiction, various mental health issues as well. So these are some of the ways I think we can. Of course, he's talked about it, but I think the Niger and Co are landlocked countries. They don't even have ports of their own. So clearly, there must be something happening either at our ports or points of entry, and we believe that that must be looked at. Thank you.
Certainly. Time check, it is some 7 minutes to the top of the hour, 10 a.m. Only some 7 minutes to go until we're bidding you farewell. Dr. Alberts, the weaning off of the drugs, the rehab, there's some detoxification that occurs. How does that usually go? How difficult is that?
Okay, so the first phase is the detoxification, which has to be done in a medical facility because, especially with the opioids, it's quite difficult to get off on your own because of the withdrawal effects. It will get you going back to use if you don't get help. So there's medication-assisted treatments where you come to the hospital, we admit you between 5 to 7 days. Some people use 7 to 10 days, depends on the severity. We give medication to ameliorate, to like kind of help you with the symptoms, like you are going to have vomiting, diarrhea, nausea, pain, headache, all that. We're going to give medication to take care of also symptomatic relief. It's not addiction is not curable. You will continue to be in recovery when you stay off the drugs. But we are giving medication to make it easy for you to cope with the withdrawal period whilst washing out whatever is in your system. That's the detoxification phase. Beyond that, what we always recommend is immediately after that, for opioids specifically, we will advise you to go for residential rehabilitation. And you see, many people don't know this, but Pantine Rehab is the best in Ghana right now in terms of resources and everything. I mean, you don't have the best facility in terms of the structure or whatever, but they have the best trained staff in the whole country. Doesn't matter whichever rehab you may mention, but Pantine is the best. They may not have the structure that fit AC or whatever, but in terms of the staffing, the qualifications of the staff there, they have psychiatrists, psychologists, they have all the expertise that you need for. They use the therapeutic community system, where, and you know, people who are in recovery or who want to start the journey, they learn best from their peers and then guided by experts. So in that environment, most of them lose activities of daily living. That's why you see Alidu saying this day he doesn't dress well. It's not because he doesn't want to dress well. It's because when you are dependent on these drugs, all your preoccupation is now how to get the drugs, how to use, and how to avoid withdrawals. That's all your preoccupation. So you prioritize using the drug to every other thing. How you look doesn't matter. Food doesn't matter. Relationship, socialization, work, nothing matters apart from just getting the drugs, using, and trying to conceal so that other people may not find out that you are using. So detoxification, medication-assisted treatment, then after that you go to the rehab. Now for those, some people who can be managed, you go to the outpatient basis, where we have some in Accra Psychiatric Hospital, Kolebu, and also Panta, and a few other places as well. But you see, some, for opioid, we always advise residential rehab. Now, Richard said it clearly. Treatment is very expensive. I can give you figures. Pantine, a month is about 6,500. You're going to be there for 6 months. If you put everything together, you need about 50,000 Ghana cedis.
Just to start your journey.
Start the journey, 50,000 Ghana cedis. Because I'm talking about detox phase, residential rehab for 6 months, your food, medications, and sometimes we have dual diagnosis, where the drugs of abuse has precipitated a mental illness. Could be psychotic, psychosis, depression, anxiety, whatever, PTSD. People with ADHD, children with ADHD, are at a higher risk of substance misuse. Typically, all of them, cannabis and all the others. So you see, it can be dual diagnosis. So we are not only treating the addiction, we also have to treat the underlying cause of what it's precipitated, and then the complications of the addiction. You understand? So you need to have a behavioral modification in a setting where you have experts to guide you, not just something. So there's no quick fix. So some people want to just go for, say, 1 week or 1 month or 2 months rehab.
That is simply not enough time.
No. There's no quick fix. They need to first of all know that addiction is not curable. It's a long-term journey. You need to allow yourself to be treated well. You understand?
Right.
So and also you have to, on the market, a lot of the evil business people have resorted into innovations. When they knew tramadol was now being targeted, they changed the name to something else. Now, from even the red, now they are on tafrodol. And because they want you to be hooked on it, they use the tramadol, and now they are adding other chemicals to the tramadol in the combination. That will make it more addictive. For example,
so all synthesized in the lab.
All synthesized. So you see the mind behind it. So for example, tafrodol, the issue that came on the BBC story, it is not just an opioid. It's tapentadol, which is the opioid, mixed with carisoprodol, which is a muscle relaxant. So, and it's also very addictive. So they want you actually to be hooked on it for longer, so that you keep coming for more, because they know it will be difficult for you to get off it. And the effect on the family is what we don't talk about.
Gentlemen.
Another thing that we don't talk about, which is looming in the background, is vaping.
Is vaping. And I think that's one that we have to table for a very serious conversation. We've sadly run out of time, but this morning has been very eye-opening and alarming in equal measure. I've learned
your driver could actually be on opioids.
Be on opioids. I mean, when I heard Alidu say that, you know, when the air gets on you, so you see them weaving through the traffic.
Let me just add quickly. You see,
yes, please.
You see, in one, we went out there not to go and do anything on opioids. We just went for screening and public education. And then a driver approached and was asking if he takes this, would it happen? So I took the strip and had a look at it, and it was opioid. And apparently they mix it with energy drink, especially the night drivers.
Yes.
The night drivers, because they want to remain awake and that. And they come in, they are moving the very next period. So it's a very big risk. Some of the road crashes we are seeing
because of
likely are just because of this. And so we must all be very interested.
So it affects and involves all of us.
All
you might say, well,
life,
maybe
crime,
my kids
everywhere.
are grown, I don't have to think about that, but you are a road user.
There should be early signs for you to tell if your kids are involved.
Exactly.
Okay.
Early signs. If your kid has become very secretive, there's decline in academic performance associated with the wrong group. Now no more socializing, becoming irritable at home, becoming disrespectful towards you. Suspect them, be close to them, talk to them. That is where it starts from. The schools, especially secondary schools.
Boarding houses.
Let me say a very, very big thank you to my doctors in studio. Dr. Thomas Anaba, Honorable MP Garu for Honorable, beg your pardon, let me slow down. Member of Parliament, Garu, and Member of Parliament's Health Committee. Honorable, thank you so much for your time this morning. Dr. Richard Selome, General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association. Also, Dr. Albert Sedohia, Specialist Psychiatrist at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. We were also joined by Dr. Richmond Edusa Poku, Executive Member of the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana. Many thanks to Alidu and Kofi, who also shared their story. We're not going to relent on this particular issue because it involves all of us. This is the future of Ghana. Gentlemen, again, I'm very thankful for your time.
Thank you.
This morning. We're also saying a very happy birthday to everybody. If it's your birthday today, a very, very happy birthday going out to you. All right, well, if it is your birthday today, a happy, happy birthday going out to you. But this is where we wrap things up on yet another exciting installment of 3FM Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Enyonam Haliga is here to give us the news update at 10. Thank you so much for all of you who tuned in on Facebook to watch us, to listen to us. This is a subject matter that is very, very close to all of our hearts. We cannot allow for opioid abuse to take control of our communities. And as our doctors have said this morning, it is incumbent on all of us in the community to ensure that we're remaining vigilant and reporting on anything that we see that is untoward in this space. And we also have the warning signs that parents can look out for if you suspect that your young ones are getting involved in opioid abuse. My name is Helen Apia Ampof. On behalf of the rest of the very, very, very exquisite Sunrise crew, do have an amazing Thursday. We're back again bright and early tomorrow. We'll see you then.